안녕하세요.
The vast glass building reflected the overcast sky as Alex Kim, the CEO of Kim Enterprises, gazed out the window from his top-floor office. The company was thriving, his name recognized across the country, yet inside, something felt empty. He felt trapped between the responsibilities of his position and his family's expectations of who he should be. His parents wanted him to marry someone from his social class, someone who would complement the Kim family's image, but none of that seemed important at that moment. Downstairs, Hana Lee was finishing yet another long day of work as an executive secretary. She was neither rich nor famous, but she had a job she valued and gave her best every day. She was calm, determined, and always put in her full effort, even though many saw her as just another anonymous employee. Hana had a subtle beauty, with black hair that fell gently over her shoulders and deep, thoughtful eyes. But it was her humility and inner strength that truly set her apart. She had learned to be strong because of the hardships she had faced in life, yet she also understood how much a simple smile could change someone's day. That afternoon, she was summoned to Alex's office for an important meeting. He needed some documents for an investor presentation, and as usual, she would handle it. Although Alex was courteous to his employees, his office always radiated an aura of power and coldness. He wasn't the kind of man who easily displayed emotions, and Hana knew that very well. When she entered his office, Alex was hunched over his desk, seemingly lost in thought as he stared at the papers before him. Hana stepped in quietly, and upon seeing him, felt a slight unease. He was the kind of man who dominated the space around him, with his imposing posture and intense eyes that seemed to take in everything. Hana didn't know what to expect from a man like him, but she had learned to keep her distance and remain professional in his presence. "Mr. Kim, here are the documents for the meeting," Hana said in a clear and respectful tone, placing the folder on his desk. Alex lifted his head and looked at her for the first time with more attention. He knew she was more than just a secretary, but he had never allowed himself to see her differently. Yet something in that moment made him view her in a new light. She wasn't like the other women he knew, women full of personal ambitions and concerns about social status. Hana was different. She seemed genuine without pretense, something Alex wasn't used to seeing. "Thank you, Hana," he responded, nodding slightly. His deep, steady voice sent a sudden warmth through her face. She avoided direct eye contact, feeling a bit uneasy under the intensity of his gaze. I do my best to make sure everything is in place," she said with a small, nervous laugh. "I'm happy to help." Alex observed her for a moment, as if considering something. Hana, on the other hand, tried to maintain her composure, though it was difficult to ignore the CEO's commanding presence. She knew her places, knew he was far more powerful and important than anyone around him, but she couldn't help but feel a growing curiosity about him. Something in the air felt different. "I can see how dedicated you are, Hana," Alex said, his voice now softer but carrying an undertone of something more. Not everyone has that level of commitment. She was surprised by the compliment. She wasn't used to receiving praise, especially from someone like Alex. Professionalism always came first. She didn't know how to respond, so she simply offered a gentle smile and turned to leave. "If you need anything else, I'll be around," she said, keeping her tone formal to hide her nervousness. "Of course," Alex replied, shifting his focus back to the papers on his desk. But as she walked out, he couldn't stop thinking about her. Something in her eyes intrigued him, a quiet, steady strength that seemed to go beyond her position at the company. He was used to women admiring him for the power he represented, but Hana didn't seem impressed by his status. And somehow, that made her even more captivating. Hana, on the other hand, tried to focus on the rest of her day, but even with her mind occupied by tasks, something about Alex's gaze lingered in her thoughts. She knew he was her boss, and she was just another employee, but something about that exchange made her question whether there was more at stake than just professionalism. She didn't want to dwell on it, but deep down, something told her that her life had changed in that moment, and sooner or later, she would have to face it. In the days that followed their first encounter, Alex couldn't get Hana out of his mind. There was something about her that challenged him, something he didn't find in other women. While everyone around him saw him as the powerful and untouchable man, she treated him like any other boss, without flattery. That was what drew him in. However, he knew that if he got involved with her, he would be risking not only his reputation, but also his position in the company and his relationship with his family. The weight of external expectations was too heavy to ignore. Hannah, on the other hand, also felt that something was changing. When Alex looked at her, it no longer seemed like mere professionalism. With each task he assigned her, there was a gentleness in his words, a softness she had never noticed before. It unsettled her, yet it also awakened a desire she tried to suppress. She knew her place wasn't by his side. She knew the difference in class between them made any involvement nearly impossible. But she couldn't deny that he was occupying her thoughts more and more. One afternoon, Alex called Hannah into his office to discuss a presentation he was preparing for an important event. She entered as she always did, maintaining her professional posture. But there was something different in the way he received her. He seemed more relaxed, more at ease, and that made her nervous. "Hannah, I need your help improving these slides. I think you could bring a fresh perspective," Alex said, offering a subtle smile that she couldn't ignore. She sat beside him, trying to focus on the task at hand, but his proximity made her mind wander. "Of course, Mr. Kim. I'll see what I can do," she replied, keeping her voice steady even though her heart was racing. As they worked together, Alex couldn't help but observe how dedicated Hannah was, so meticulous and patient. She was different from anyone he had ever met. The other secretaries were efficient, but they always had an ulterior motive, a desire to please him in some way. Hannah, however, seemed to do her job out of a sense of duty, without expecting anything in return. "Hannah," he said after a moment of silence, "why do you never ask for anything in return? You're always so dedicated, but you never seem to want more than the work itself." She was caught off guard by the question and hesitated before answering. "I do what is necessary. I don't expect more than what I'm paid for." She avoided his gaze, knowing he might interpret it differently. She didn't want him to think she was dissatisfied, but in truth, her life had always been about fighting for stability, without big dreams or expectations. Alex remained silent for a moment, reflecting on her words. He watched her with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. "You deserve more than this, Hannah," he said, his sincerity catching her off guard. She didn't know how to respond, so she simply smiled, trying to shift the focus. "I just want to do my job the best way I can, Mr. Kim." He observed her for a few more seconds, still processing her words. He knew something was changing between them, but the line between what was appropriate and what was dangerous was becoming increasingly blurred. His desire to know her on a deeper level was growing, but he wasn't sure how far he was willing to go to make that happen. Hannah, for her part, felt a tightness in her chest. She wanted to believe he was just being kind, but his words carried an underlying meaning she couldn't ignore. What did he really want? And more importantly, what did she want? She wasn't sure if she could allow herself to dream of something more, but the feeling that something unexpected was happening between them was undeniable. By the end of the day, as they were both getting ready to leave the office, Alex stood still for a moment, watching her. Hannah, on the other hand, felt the weight of the situation. She knew that any misstep could change everything. "Are you okay, Hannah?" Alex asked unexpectedly, his gaze carrying a softness she had never seen before. She smiled, trying to hide the tension in her chest. "Yes, Mr. Kim, thank you. I'm heading home now." As she walked away, Alex sat back at his desk, lost in thought. He knew there was something between them, but the risks were too great to ignore. At the same time, he could no longer shake the idea that maybe he deserved something more genuine, something real, and Hannah seemed to be the answer to that. Hannah also felt the weight of the situation, but her eyes were set on the future. She didn't know what fate had in store for her, but something inside told her that sooner or later, she would have to face the feelings that were beginning to grow within her. Days passed, and the tension between Alex and Hannah grew, though neither of them spoke of it. Something was changing, an invisible current pulling them together, but neither was willing to admit what it meant. Hannah continued to dedicate herself to her work, but now with a weight on her heart. She couldn't stop thinking about what was happening between her and Alex. Yet she knew that any involvement with him could change her life forever. To her, being with someone as powerful and wealthy as him felt like an unreachable fairy tale. Alex, on the other hand, was struggling with his own doubts. He wanted Hannah more than he cared to admit, but the consequences were undeniable. His family, especially his father, would never accept him being involved with an employee, and it would directly affect the company's image. Yet, the more time he spent around Hannah, the clearer it became that she was different. She wasn't interested in his wealth or power, and that drew him in like nothing else ever had. Everything changed during a crucial meeting with investors. The company was facing a potential scandal involving one of its biggest projects, and the investors were demanding answers. The air was thick with tension, all eyes locked on Alex. But instead of focusing on business strategies, his mind betrayed him, distracted by Hannah's presence as she entered the room to deliver a report. Just seeing her unsettled him, making it harder to maintain control of the situation. After the meeting, Hannah was summoned to Alex's office once more. As she stepped inside, she immediately sensed the atmosphere was heavier than ever. Alex stood by the window, his gaze distant, as if searching for a solution to all his problems. She could see the weight of his burdens pressing down on him. "Alex, are you okay?" Hannah asked hesitantly, feeling that he needed someone to talk to. He turned slowly, their eyes locking. The intensity in his gaze sent a shiver through her. "Hannah, I don't know what to do anymore. Everything is falling apart. I could lose everything, even my family. The pressure is too much." Hannah looked at him, noticing the exhaustion on his face. "I understand, Alex. You're carrying a huge responsibility, but you have to remember that you're not alone in this. I'm here to help." He gave a weak smile, grateful for her presence. "I know, but I can't keep living just to please others. My entire life, I was shaped to be the perfect CEO, to make everyone around me happy. But in doing so, I'm losing my own chance at happiness with the person I truly want." Silence filled the room as his words settled between them, and Hannah's heart pounded. She knew exactly what he meant, but she couldn't allow herself to acknowledge it. She couldn't be the person he needed her to be. The consequences would be too severe. I can't do this," Hannah said, her voice low, almost breaking. "I can't be involved with you. It's not just about the company, it's about everything that's at stake. You have a future ahead of you, and I'm just an employee." Alex took a step closer to her. "No, Hannah, you're not just an employee. You're the only person who truly understands me. I can't let this go. I know it won't be easy, but I refuse to live a lie." Hannah instinctively stepped back, feeling her chest tighten. "Alex, you're losing sight of reality. This isn't just about what you feel, it's about everything that will follow. If we get involved, you could lose everything you've built." He looked at her, pain clear in his eyes. "I know, but sometimes life forces us to make difficult choices, and I choose you, Hannah." The silence returned, heavy with unspoken words. Hannah knew this wouldn't be easy, but a part of her felt the weight of his sincerity. He was choosing her above everything else. But that choice came with immense risk for both of them.